And so other stories, as the world mark World Wetland Day, some conservationists are appealing to authorities to adopt a sustainable way of protecting wetlands because any attempt to encroach on its space will affect livelihoods, ecosystems, and biodiversity. Esther Mokbariola reports.
Lagos is a low-lying coastal city endowed with a number of lagoons and wetlands. The wetlands, which are predominantly swamps and mangroves, act as flood control, a water purifier, nature's carbon sink, and serve as a home to endangered plants and wildlife. But growing land demands for developmental purposes is threatening this vibrant ecosystem. Esther Nosaroge, a conservation biologist, noticed a situation where some vegetation on the wetland area in Igomu, which also houses the National Arts Theatre, has been destroyed, and that some pipes are now laid across the area to fill it for some construction to take place. She is worried that this will not only threaten the lives and livelihoods of many who depend on wetlands for survival, but will gradually see rare species lose their natural habitat.
So my concern is we are losing a green space which is, has value for us. That's one. And the second concern is we need to, when we're talking about our culture and arts, we cannot remove the environment from that, right? So it's really not separate. So if we say we want to have a cultural and entertainment center, that's great, but human beings can live in harmony with nature.
In the meantime, state authorities were asked to adopt a sustainable approach to preserve nature rather than destroy it.
The Conservation and Ecology Department of the Ministry gives permit for wetland usage, but we propose and we always promote wise use of the wetlands.
When we talk about the value of wetlands, you cannot take out human well-being from the value of wetland. In fact, at the core of the value of wetlands is the well-being of humans.
When we destroy our wetlands, it eventually affects us health-wise and in so many other ways. So it's important that we educate ourselves, be more aware of why this is there, why it was created in the first place, and then do better in conserving it.
In all of this, the value wetlands give to the environment is unquantifiable, which can't be ignored. And in preserving this vibrant ecosystem, it starts with learning to coexist with nature. Esther Mokbariola, TVC News, Lagos.
And Senior Manager, Species Conservation, NCF, Dr. Stella Egbe joins me on the News On this. She joins us in the studio. Good to have you join us.
Thank you very much for having me.
So I know that Esther has, talked so much about wetlands in that report. But when we talk about wetlands, people always wonder, what are they going on and on about? How significant can this be? And I want you to just explain to people the very significance of wetlands, even for them.
So wetlands are normally shallow, wet areas. It can be seasonally flooded or consistently flooded. But what is unique about them is that they are shallow and then they host a lot of biodiversity. But wetlands in themselves are very valuable in that they are carbon sinks. In fact, according to research, wetlands hold more carbon than even trees. So in mitigating the impact of climate change, they are very useful. Wetlands are also areas of high biodiversity. So you look at fish, you look at birds, that resident migratory birds. Some of the wetlands in Nigeria at certain points during the annual cycle can hold up to about 300,000 bird species. Those that you find here and those that come from Europe during the wintering season to find their place in those particular areas. We have some that have endemic fish species that you don't find anywhere else in the world other than this place. Now, what is the value of this to humans? They provide rice farming, for example. One of the biggest areas of rice farming is wetlands, because that is the kind of habitat you need for the sustenance of rice. And then you can carry that out while also protecting the wetlands. Fish is also a very good resource that humans feed on. It is one of our top protein sources. And when we destroy the wetland, we destroy these food resources that we need. We are a low-income country, and these resources are available to especially surrounding local communities and then the broader areas where they are transported to. And that's one of the major things we're advocating.
I'm just going to get that, because most times people can't identify wetlands. What they see is a swampy area that you will fill and build your house. You know, that's all they see, like, oh, how do I get this land? All I need to do is just fill it and build the house.
Yes.
When people do stuff like that and begin to build houses on wetland, what's the short-term and long-term impact?
The short term, what you're doing is that they hold water. So when you have rain, there are certain areas within our landscape that can hold a lot of water before it is now released into the bigger water bodies, the rivers and the seas. And that's the wetlands. So they help to control erosion, they help to control flooding. Once you fill those areas, what happens is that water, so we leave it in Lagos. In the rainy season, the excess water doesn't have where to flow to. So what happens is that we are now surrounded by it, and then there is flooding. And then erosion becomes more intense because water is just moving without any direction. So apart from the direct resources of food, there's also the ecosystem services that wetlands provide. And when we sandfill or we don't use them sustainably, we lose those direct and indirect benefits that we accrue from the wetlands.
And sometimes it's the state governments that are also guilty, mostly guilty, of situations like this. But what sort of do regulations exist to protect wetlands? And if not, what sort of regulations should we put in place? So
Nigeria is signatory to a lot of laws, international treaties that are supposed to protect these wetlands. So it is the role of the government to have those laws. NGOs will advocate, and then there are laws that look at sustainable usage of these places. But we need to do more when it comes to the enforcement of those laws. We need to do a lot of evaluation, environmental impact assessment when we are allocating spaces for development. But most importantly, we need to learn to live with nature and not remove nature in the face of development.
Thank you so much for talking to us. We hope that those stakeholders are listening and are taking the necessary action. Dr. Stella Egbe, Senior Manager, Species Conservation, NCF. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.